In today's video, we're going to be exploring for one last time the SS United States, if you have not heard recently in the news.
Details: it is eviction day for the SS United States.
The ship will be sunk off Destin and Fort Walton Beach as an artificial reef.
It will be sunk to become the world's largest artificial reef.
Yes, that is right. The SS United States is finally leaving Pier 82 at Philadelphia to be sunk in the Gulf of Mexico as the world's largest artificial reef. The SS United States has been sitting in Philadelphia for over 30 years in hopes to be brought back into a riverside attraction, but nothing ever came about it. The conservancy and the owner of the pier got into a legal battle over rent, and the court ordered the massive 990-foot-long ocean liner to be removed from the port by the end of September. In panic mode, the conservancy tried to relocate the ship but failed to do so in the short amount of time it had. Its only two options were to sell it to Okaloosa County to be sunk or send it to a scrapyard. They chose to have it become part of an artificial reef as it would still be seen and remembered. I combine all my footage in one video of my tours in 2015 and 2016, so join me as we explore one last time the SS United States.
Gangway is swung away from the ship and the last line is cast off, the United States becomes an island unto herself, the world's fastest ship starting on her 4.5-day voyage to Europe. It's as though some great New York hotel had broken away from Manhattan and is moving out to sea.
Sitting in Philadelphia since 1996, the SS United States has been a landmark for over 30 years for those passing by her on Columbus Boulevard. This once great ocean liner, though, will soon be headed to the bottom of the ocean as it becomes the world's largest artificial reef. As we take our final tour inside, we'll be visiting the first-class theater, cabin-class theater, pool, bridge, crow's nest, first-class ballroom, the engine room, and many more. This video includes footage of my two trips to the SS United States in 2015 and 2016. I decided to combine them both into one video tour, which will make this probably one of my longest videos to date. As we made our way inside, we were greeted with this somewhat eerie sound. That sound you heard was the ship flexing to the change in tide and the wind. As we make our way up, the SS United States, also known as the Big U, took its maiden voyage in 1952. It cost $71.8 million to build when it was ordered in 1949. It took many transatlantic trips from New York to Europe before it was finally retired in 1969. As we enter the first-class cabins, before we get into that, everyone is probably wondering, where are all the walls? Well, in 1993, the SS United States was sent to Ukraine to have all the asbestos removed. The ship's designer, William Gibbs, a famous naval architect, wanted her to be fireproof, so asbestos panels and walls were used all over the ship. That is why all you will see is a shell of what used to be there. All the first-class cabins consisted of luxury rooms. You will see the footers of where the walls used to be, as well as the drains to the toilets, showers, and tubs. Speaking of different classes, other than first class, there was cabin class and tourist class. First class passengers got the best service and easy access to the popular locations on the ship. They also had their own ballroom, smoking room, and dining room. These rooms were in the middle of the ship as it was the quietest location from the engines. The staterooms were also very spacious and meant for the wealthiest passengers. Cabin class was aimed towards the middle-class passengers. Although its rooms were located slightly closer to the engine rooms, it still offered the balance between first and tourist class. Lastly, tourist class was aimed towards those that did not want to spend a lot of money on a ticket. It was said that this class was often booked by immigrants and students. The cabins were very small, and you shared rooms with other passengers, as well as bathrooms. These rooms were located in an area where rocking and engine noise was much more pronounced. So here we are at the first class dining room, standing on the balcony that looks down. All the posts you see in the floor are where the tables used to be. Since fireproofing the ship was a big goal, all those tables had electric to them. All that electric was running through those posts. This was to power the candle on the table, as again, they wanted to be fireproof, and using a real candle was a fire hazard. This was one of the many entry doors that brought in many of the first class, cabin class, and tourist class passengers. So here we are walking up to what is called the Grand Staircase. This staircase was shared between first, cabin, and tourist class, but it got you from the top to the bottom, and also to the left was the elevators. I do have some more footage of the Grand Staircase as we go through the video. As we continue walking past what used to be the staterooms, the SS United States was 990 feet long. This was about 100 feet longer than the RMS Titanic. It consists of 12 decks and was about 175 feet high. The SS United States featured 4 double reduction geared steam turbines. It has 4 shafts, 2 4-blade props, and 2 5-blade props that put out almost 240,000 shaft horsepower. We'll be visiting the engine room as we go through the video. Here is what would be the main entrance to the SS United States. So here we are at the first class smoking room. This bar is one of the originals that still remains in the SS United States. Smoking in your cabin was considered prohibited, so the smoking lounge was created so passengers can enjoy their favorite cigar and drinks while enjoying a nice conversation with others. By the way, the shell you see in the ship is made up of aluminum and the beams were galvanized. This cut down on the weight of the SS United States by a lot and is one of the main reasons why you do not see a lot of rust on this ship. The yellow paint that's all throughout is the same primer that was used on military aircraft during its time. As we make our way up to the bow of the ship, let's talk about why the SS United States is famous. It still to this day is the only transatlantic ocean liner to hold the blue ribbon speed record. Her top speed was kept as a military secret, but the alleged leak says it hit up to 43 knots, which is 49 miles per hour during a trial. Although that seems slow when driving a car, that is extremely fast for a 990-foot long ocean liner. It was said that that speed was still not even pushing her to the limit. They believed that she could even go faster, but no one wanted to be responsible for breaking her when attempting to do so. At the average speed of 40 miles per hour, the SS United States was able to get to the UK from New York in 3.5 days. This beat out the previous record held by the Queen Mary. We are now making our way into the windlass motor room. The windlass is a machine that raises and lowers a ship's anchor. A notch wheel engages the links of the chain to help raise and lower. There were 2 anchors on the SS United States. As you can see, there was still gear oil all over the floor as I walked through, as it was quite slippery. I have the main audio muted as we're inside, as we were with 3 other people on a private tour, and there was just a lot of talking going on, so I didn't want to have too much conversation ruining the video. All across the ship are these brooms. When in Ukraine, they use these brooms to sweep out all the asbestos they removed. Obviously, this is probably why I ended up in Ukraine to be abated, as health standards were different than they are here in the US. one of the many staircases on the ship that was used by all classes, but mainly the tourist class. Here we are back at the grand staircase. As mentioned earlier, this staircase was shared with all classes and got you to all the popular venues all over the ship. As mentioned earlier, William Gibbs was the architect who designed this great ocean liner. Her construction was a joint effort by the United States Navy and the United States Lines. Since the United States Navy was involved in the construction, a lot of top-secret engine components were installed. It was built not only to be a luxury ocean liner, but also to be converted into a troop transport in the event of war. It was designed to carry 14,000 troops over 10,000 miles without even needing to be refueled once. Ocean liners have been around since the late 1800s. Just like airlines, these ships were all part of a line. Some examples are White Star Lines, which is what the Titanic belonged to, Lloyd Line, the French Line, Italian Line, Cunard Line, and lastly the United States Lines, which the SS United States belonged to. Ocean liners during its peak was the only way to travel across the ocean to another continent. In the 60s, though, airlines became a much faster and cheaper means to travel, and that ultimately killed the ocean liners. Today, only one ocean liner remains in service, and that is the Queen Mary II. We are now walking into what is said to be one of the theaters that hosted many events and shows for first and cabin class passengers. Although it's just a shell, you can still see the stage, the boxes that used to hold the lighting, and the remnants of the projection booth. Now that we're walking around outside, I'm going to keep the background audio enabled, and I'll chime in from here and there. What our tour guide is actually talking about right now is that when he arrived one day, the ropes that are holding the ship to the dock actually broke loose, and the whole front end was not up against the dock. So they actually had to get the Coast Guard to come in and help push the ship back so they can reattach. It's a crazy story. So that high-pitched ticking sound you're going to hear is actually each thread of the rope breaking. It is always windier up here, but we are pretty high up. Here are the ropes. That's the ropes. You can hear them ropes.
Yeah, and she busts the shit out of chafing gear. Like, I can't tell you how often I change this rub gear. She just tears it right back off again. That rope's about halfway through it. I'm gonna have to change that in the next couple of weeks. This one doesn't rub quite.
Yeah.
But this line is the most important one on the ship. With that, she gets interesting fast. Yeah, this is so awesome to be up here. I've had drunk people try to climb the anchor chain. There's nowhere to go. I mean, there's no. You see the tube. You saw the tube down in the engine. You will never make it. Yeah.
What he's talking about is he's actually had people try and climb the anchor chain to gain access to this ship. Let me tell you, some brave souls.
And they made a rope ladder out of climbing lines from like this little towers, and I locked that door now, so why did they got in? Because I feel quiet. That they had to go. We cut them all up and we put them in dumpsters over the side, got rid of them. She has, in terms of ships, and her design, the way she, the fact that she has this aluminum integrated superstructure, and I say integrated is important because they had Italian. That's why they have the integrated standard. But she's hard. She's not going to tip. It's all of those.
So this hatch here is where large cargo would be craned in and out of, including automobiles. This is the builder's plate that's usually put on once it leaves the dry dock.
They do a lot of feasibility studies and power to weight ratios. Captain's quarters. You're up here, probably one of the few spots out here that you can get both funnels in the same shot. So they have like a. Yeah, so these were. It's like a little table here. No, well, this was part of the docking controls. So you can dock control. You got this one, and if you look all the way down the stern, you see that little nugget that kicks out right there at the end. That's the docking for the stern. So the docking master's still here.
As you probably heard in the previous conversation, this is where the dock master would stand when they came in for docking.
What kills me though, when you get all the way up to the bridge,
I'm on the end little watch area here.
Now we are entering the bridge. The bridge was the main controls of the SS United States. The captain would spend most of his time in the bridge, and his main cabin was located not far from this area. Not much is left in this bridge, but as you can see, the post and the floor that used to be for the control stands and where the speed was adjusted is still there. This bridge was much lower than what is considered in code in today's ships. One thing I want to note is there's staircases that go down all over the ship. It is a giant maze. What you see here is the fire system in the whole ship. This is the control stand.
other layers, levels are cool.
So what you see here is called the Crow's Nest, and this is a watchtower on the SS United States. So I'm going to be climbing this thing. I put a GoPro on my head, and I'm not going to show you the entire climb, as climbing this ladder did take about 2 minutes. So I did advance the clip here to get you to the top, so you can see the amazing view. And it was very windy. Let me tell you, this thing was shaking. So I was having some trouble getting my foot out of the door, as this hatch was pretty small and there wasn't a lot of room to put your feet, but I eventually did get out.
Wow.
Now the Crow's Nest wasn't used often on the SS United States, but
It's
the
high.
purpose of the Crow's Nest was to give somebody a good view of what's out in front of them.
Port side is solid all the way through. It's got a lag, and then you guys do like a GoPro from the engine room up to Promenade, like you're trying to escape the ship.
Yeah.
That can be done. Draft of their.
One of the iconic looks of the SS United States is its bright red stacks, although they're faded right now. You can see what looks like some type of spoiler to help airflow, so that it can maintain the speed it's known to have.
The elevator.
So right now we're walking into one of the elevator machine rooms. Lots of electrical circuit panels and boards. We're now walking into the emergency generator room. This was an inline 8-cylinder diesel engine that was barely used. He ended up pulling the valve cover off, and I do get a closer shot. But you can see the oil's still there and how fresh it looked.
Each one of those should be.
See all the levers over here?
Oh yeah, I'll get over there.
Straight 8. The batteries over there, yeah, are for starting her. Yeah, Navy tankers used to pay me to take these away, and then I would take them and I would fucking sell them to Stratford. She has small diesel tanks in here as well.
Why the hell is my freaking thing keeps backing up on me? It's so weird when I'm inside.
Flash.
The one that I take a picture of it. So weird.
They're built for spec for submarines, submarine spec, meaning that they're meant to take such an extreme amount of vibration and still stay humming perfectly true. And the bearings that are in them, China was after them for the longest time because the density and quality was so high. They were buying up any bearings at the time made in the 50s. Right. And there's one of these I'll show you out on deck.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
It spins still on its axis. It's sat
Hold on.
out in the weather for 20, 30 years, and it still spins free.
Backside, you can see all the wiring.
I just think that's cool.
Oh wow.
I'll be lucky if my Sultan here lasts 2-3 years. Yeah.
12 years, I should say.
Maybe batteries open. Yeah, but
need to get like a wider square, like LED, like a, you know, like a wide covering light for stuff like this. I think Manfreda makes one.
Yeah, they have one. Clips on your hot shoe.
Over there.
Where at?
Just over there on the other side. There's a ladder. I opened it up a second ago. Take it out.
It's boring me out.
Yeah, no, put a date on it. Original so this is foreign. This is probably bought in Ukraine because it's got Russian written on the side of it, and the ingredients is in Russian.
So this deck here was where a lot of different games were played. This is the last remaining prop that's on the SS United States. The other three were either donated or scrapped, which, by the way, docking this SS United States costs the conservatory almost $60,000 a month.
That's 61,000.
Which is why they had to scrap some of the stuff to help pay.
I think that one was minted
is all
in 59
brass.
or 57. But there should be a
tall.
right there on the
It is
side. That's the
massive.
builder's marks for it. Do you know anything about this? What you're taking a picture? What happens with this is you have low pressure on the backside of the blade, high pressure on the front side of the blade, and then you have hydrogen and oxygen together, and then when they roll around here to the other end, and they're under the extreme pressure, it literally splits the molecule in half, and it's
The waterway you see here is called the Delaware River, and it separates New Jersey, which is on the further side from where I'm videoing, to Pennsylvania, which is what we're on.
There used to be 4.
So the damage you see here is the outcome of them taking one of the props and putting it on the rear. When they lifted it up by crane, it took out this railing. So now we're entering the promenade deck, which was an enclosed deck that kept you out of the elements and allowed you to access many of the important venues and amenities on the ocean liner. So now we're entering, which is the largest auditorium on the SS United States. It is said that this was shared by all classes, but it is also said that this is the only ocean liner to have a raised floor. So I'm walking up to the projection booth to see if there was any projectors or anything left behind. But, as like the rest of the ship, there's nothing left. So we're now entering the first class ballroom, which the bar that's pictured here is the original bar, but it was moved forward during a movie shoot that happened here many years ago. Many famous people actually sailed on the SS United States, including 4 US presidents: Harry Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, John Kennedy, and the young Bill Clinton. Other famous people that also sailed in the SS United States included Walt Disney, Duke Ellington, Judy Garland, Bob Hope, Marilyn Monroe, Grace Kelly, Elizabeth Taylor, John Wayne, and the Duke of Duchess of the Windsor. This is one of the kitchens that was adjacent to the ballroom. This paneling here was all that's left. This is the original paneling that used to be in the SS United States. Everything else was removed except for this one section as a remembrance. These are giant port windows that looked out to the promenade deck from the cocktail lounge. This was the backup gyro on the B deck. Here we are at the pool that was meant for first class and cabin class passengers. Unlike pools that you see on cruise ships that are up on the main deck, this pool was actually on a lower deck, and it consisted of salt water. Now we're making our way into one of the engine rooms. I'm going to let you listen along as he explains what the red turbine does.
Explain to you how this works?
No, you didn't.
No?
I always thought the motors would be so far down into the bottom of the ship.
Yeah, well, we're not for. So, ahead of this room is the boiler room. There they build the head pressure and steam with, I'll point all that out so you can get up there, but that's where they get the water hot and they pump it up here. The corners of these rooms, there used to be these 25-foot tall holding canisters, Monel canisters. I got rid of them, but then it pumped through this pipeline and it would go over here to that small, you see this, that little guy on the left is the high pressure turbine. There's a small turbine inside of there. That's where the high pressure is built. And then from there, it comes over this, through this horse-shaped tube, down to this right here, which is the low pressure turbine. When it hits the top of that turbine, because of the centrifugal motion that's already in play, she's actually at a state of vacuum, 13 pounds of vacuum, when she was hitting this end. And then from there, see that shaft coming out of the front of the turbine underneath the stairwell there? And then from the back side is a reduction gear, that's like a transmission. Okay. So that takes all those high RPMs and stages it down into something that they can create the right amount of torque without tearing that propeller apart. Right. Well, constantly leaves it open, but
So these stairs and catwalks are how the engine workers would be able to escape all the way up to the top if there was ever a problem.
it's a good spot.
So one thing that's not really shown is how massive these engine rooms are. I mean, they go down deck after deck after deck. We kept going so far down that by the time we got to the bottom, it was so hard to breathe that I had to go back up. So this is the propeller revolution indicator that shows how many times that propeller has spun on that shaft. Lots of other gauges like the vacuum and steam. And there was even the other RPM meter for the shaft. Climbing down another level, deeper into the engine room. This is one of the boilers that's been cut up. This is one of the air conditioning machinery that's located in the engine room, about 3 decks down. As you can see as we're walking here, there's passageways, catwalks all over the place. I gotta give props to the people that work down here, as I'm not sure how they did it with the heat and everything else. One of the things that absolutely blows my mind is the amount of valve wheels that are in these engine rooms. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to start this thing. There is valve wheels everywhere. This about wraps up our final tour of the SS United States. It's going to be sad to see her go, but ultimately the plan to sink her as an artificial reef is a much better option than scrapping. So what's the plan? Well, she'll leave Philadelphia by early November and head to Norfolk, Virginia. While there, she will go through a massive cleanup to prep her for sinking. Both stacks will be removed, as well as other items which will become part of the Land Museum. Once all of this is done, which could take months, she will then head down to Florida, where she'll be sunk in the Gulf of Mexico. She spent 30 years doing absolutely nothing in the pier of Philadelphia, so now she'll get to spend the rest of her life as a new home to marine life. Thanks for watching.